Soccer is one of the most popular sports in the world and is played by millions of people every day. Whether you are a professional player or just enjoy playing the game for fun, it's important to know the rules and regulations of the sport. One such rule concerns the items that are prohibited in a soccer match. These items are not only banned for safety reasons but also to maintain the integrity of the game. In this article, we'll be discussing the top 10 accessories that are not allowed in a soccer match. Number 10 on our list is jewelry. All forms of jewelry, including necklaces, bracelets, rings, earrings, and watches, are strictly prohibited on the soccer field. These items pose a risk of injury to the player and their opponents, and can also cause damage to the equipment. The referee has the right to ask a player to remove any jewelry before the game begins. The reason for this rule is to minimize the risk of injury and ensure that the game is played in a safe and fair manner. Number 9 on our list is headwear. Caps, hats, bandanas, and any other form of headwear are not allowed during matches, unless they have been approved by the referee for medical reasons. This rule is in place to prevent any potential hazards to the player or their opponents. The reason for this rule is to avoid the possibility of a player's headwear becoming entangled with an opponent, which could result in a dangerous situation. Number 8 on our list is headbands. Headbands, whether made of cloth or rubber, are not permitted on the field. They are seen as a potential hazard to the player or their opponents and can also interfere with the player's vision. The reason for this rule is to minimize the risk of injury and ensure that the game is played in a safe and fair manner. Number 7 on our list is protective cast. If a player has suffered an injury and requires a cast, they must get special permission from the referee before they can wear it on the field. The cast must be made of a soft material that does not pose a risk to the player or their opponents. The reason for this rule is to ensure the safety of the player and their opponents, as a hard cast could cause injury if it makes contact with another player. Number 6 on our list is shin guards. While mandatory for players, shin guards must be completely covered by socks and must not contain any metal parts that could pose a risk to other players. The reason for this rule is to protect the player's legs from injury, as well as to prevent the shin guards from causing injury to other players. Number 5 on our list is gloves. Goalkeepers are the only players allowed to wear gloves, and they must be of a specific color and design approved by the governing body of the match. The gloves must not have any sharp or protruding parts that could pose a risk to the player or their opponents. The reason for this rule is to ensure the safety of the player and their opponents, as well as to prevent the gloves from interfering with the goalkeeper's ability to make saves. Number 4 on our list is electronic devices. Smartwatches, fitness trackers, and any other electronic devices are not allowed on the field. These devices can cause distractions and interrupt the flow of the game, so it's important that players leave them off during matches. The reason for this rule is to prevent any distractions that could interfere with the player's ability to focus on the game. Number 3 on our list is hair accessories. Hair ties, clips, and pins are not permitted during matches. Players must have their hair tied back in a way that does not pose a risk to themselves or their opponents. Loose hair can also obstruct the player's vision, making it difficult for them to see what's happening on the field. The reason for this rule is to ensure that the player's hair does not become entangled with an opponent, and to prevent any potential hazards to the player or their opponents. Number 2 on our list is protective equipment. Any form of protective equipment, such as knee braces, ankle braces, or elbow pads, must be made of a soft material that does not pose a risk to the player or their opponents. The equipment must also be properly fitted and not interfere with the player's movement on the field. The reason for this rule is to ensure the safety of the player and their opponents, as well as to prevent the protective equipment from causing injury to other players. And finally, number 1. Clothing. The soccer uniform must be of a specific design approved by the governing body of the match and must not contain any sharp or protruding parts that could pose a risk to the player or their opponents. Players must also wear shin guards that are completely covered by their socks. The reason for these rules is to ensure the safety of the player and their opponents, as well as to ensure that the game is played in a fair and equitable manner. So there you have it, the top 10 accessories that soccer players are prohibited from wearing during matches. It's important to remember that these rules are in place to ensure the safety of the players and to ensure that the game is played in a fair and equitable manner. So the next time you're watching a soccer match, keep an eye out for these restrictions and appreciate the hard work that goes into making the sport safe and enjoyable for all.